regional integration tops the agenda at the African Union meeting in Ethiopia. Nigeria's healthcare spending lags behind the Abuja Declaration, and patients are paying the costs. And the Oscar-nominated mega-hit Black Panther returns to theaters for free Black History Month screenings. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Esther Gidu. You are in for Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. The chairperson of the African Union Commission is urging AU members to intensify efforts to complete the African integration process. Musa Faki Mahamati made the call during the 34th session of the organization's Executive Council, which continues on Friday at the AU headquarters in Addis Ababa. Faki says the integration process is urgent. Faced with the current rise of unilateralism and in the world, he says Africa must complete the integration process as soon as possible to achieve the common development of the entire continent. AU members are also being urged to quicken their pace for the realization of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. During the two-day meeting, the Executive Council is expected to consider key recommendations ahead of the session of the AU Assembly of the Heads of State and Government when African leaders gather at the AU headquarters February 10th and 11th. Ugandan police on Friday have released 3 journalists on bond who were working for the BBC and a Ministry of Health communication officer after a night in detention at Kampala's Central Police Station. The journalists were arrested while conducting what they say was a legitimate investigation into the illegal sale of government drugs by Ugandan officials. The 3 journalists, 2 Ugandans and a Kenyan, were among a total of 5 people arrested in the incident. The others were the wife of a local journalist working with them and a driver. Police freed the 5 after determining the journalists were conducting a legitimate investigation. Now, in 2001, the Nigerian government pledged, along with all African Union countries, to set aside 15% of its annual budget for spending on healthcare. But the West African nation has never come close to reaching that goal. The result is that up to 70% of medical spending is out of pocket, forcing many of those with sudden health problems into debt, poverty, and an early grave. Timothy Obiezu reports from Abuja.
Ajayi Taiwo is still recovering from a car wreck a year ago that injured his right leg and pelvis 3 weeks before his wedding.
I actually spent like close to 2 months in the hospital. And all the resources that we have gathered together for the wedding to make it good actually went into hospital bills.
And the medical bills never stopped. Without any government assistance, Taiwo had to sell his car and other valuables just to get by.
Imagine I went to a government hospital and I was paying heavily as if I was paying I was in a private hospital.
Nigeria in 2001 pledged, along with all African Union countries, to target 15% of its annual budget for health care, the so-called Abuja Declaration. But 18 years later, Nigeria's highest ever budget share for health was just 7%. And in 2018, it dropped to less than 4%. In Nigeria, 70% of hospital spending is out of pocket, pushing Nigerians like Ajayi into debt, poverty, or an early grave.
Having to pay out of pocket is a huge devastating effect on any family. I mean, you've got to look out for food, first of all, for the family, school fees, and other things, just basic things to live. And that's why you find that a lot of people that end up in hospitals come only when it is late.
Nigeria's Ministry of Health admits the problem is serious.
Our out-of-pocket health expenditure was estimated at over 70%. And even the estimates we have for 2017 is even higher. So our goal is to use the strategy from the basket funding and making sure we pay for a basic minimum package of care to reduce the high out-of-pocket expenditure.
But until Nigeria dramatically increases its healthcare budget, patients like Taiwo will struggle to stay healthy. Timothy Obiezu, For VOA News, Abuja.
Internally displaced people are just as important in elections as the general populace. And that seems to be the point of the European Union, which is raising concern over a non-inclusion of IDPs in the forthcoming Nigerian elections. The senior electoral advisor at the European Center for Electoral Support, Dominique Viet, made this known during a sensitization program for internally displaced persons in Adamawa State. He says the only way to guarantee the fundamental human rights of all citizens is to enshrine the tenets of democracy. We get more in this Channels Television report from Haslon Freedom.
Internally displaced persons in many temporary shelters are hoping for a better future beyond their immediate needs. And just a few weeks to the general elections, some of them in Adamawa State feel they are being robbed of the right to participate in elections.
It is going to be very smooth.
This was brought up as the Center for Electoral Support collaborates with the German government and the Independent National Electoral Commission on a voter education program for displaced persons living in camps across Adamawa State. The Adamawa State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Kasim Gaidam, represented at the event by Rifkatu Maxwell, explains the purpose.
INEC is always putting effort for an all-inclusive election. That is our belief, because we know that for an election to be free, fair, and credible, every citizen of a nation must be carried along.
Like other citizens, many of the IDPs obtained their permanent voter cards in their communities before they were displaced by the Boko Haram insurgency. Makohi and Fufore camps in Adamawa State has since become home for them, but they are unhappy at the inability of INEC to include them in the exercise.
There are many people among us who are eligible to vote, but they cannot do that now because some of us lost our voter's card when we were displaced by the insurgents. And now that the election is near, we cannot even participate because we were not captured by INEC.
A musician and ambassador for the sensitization program appeals to authorities to ensure that IDPs are not left out of future general elections.
Knowledge is not lost. What we have to now do is find ways that we include them so that it doesn't happen again. You understand? Because everybody's voice is very important. Not to a certain few. I don't think it will work that way. Everybody has to have that freedom and to come and exercise their civil rights. Yeah.
While responding to the concerns of the IDPs, the electoral umpire in the state reels out efforts to address the situation in the camps.
Actually, the responsibility of letting INEC know that there are IDPs in this camp lies in the hands of ATSEMA and NEMA. And to the best of my knowledge, they have not drawn our attention to this number of people. If they had done that, we would have come to either transfer them from where they are coming from to Adamawa, or those that want to maintain their registration in Borno would have done that during the CVR.
There are 2,600 internally displaced persons in 2 camps in Adamawa State, including women and children. Of this number, about 900 people have their PVCs. However, they may not be able to cast their votes, as the time given for the registration process has elapsed. Their fate is similar to other displaced persons in other states.
That was Haslon Freedom of Channels Television reporting. Some key U.S. observers say Sudan's crackdown on anti-government protesters could jeopardize efforts to normalize relations with the United States. Since protests erupted December 19th over high inflation and rising bread and fuel prices, rights groups and news sources, including the Voice of America, have issued reports of arbitrary arrests, detentions, and killings. The Reuters news agency, however, reported that President Omar al-Bashir has taken a more conciliatory tone toward protesters in recent days, saying they are mostly young with poor prospects, while promising to free jailed journalists. Sudan has sought to be removed from a list of countries that the United States has designated as state sponsors of terrorism. Efforts to normalize relations between Sudan and the United States began under the administration of President Barack Obama, which ended 2 decades of economic sanctions on the Northeast African country. A U.S. Senate hearing on Thursday heard a testimony from a U.S. Marine Corps General Thomas Waldhauser of the U.S. Africa Command about Russia's influence in parts of Africa. Here is an excerpt from that hearing.
Senator, I think the issue with Russia has to do with influence. I think in recent months over the past year, they've perhaps got more involved in mineral extraction, but to a large degree, it's still a matter of influence, especially in areas where not, or especially in areas where they could say that the United States or the UK or Western partners are perhaps backing away from Africa. It's, I think, clear that their strategy along the northern part of Africa, southern part of NATO, if you will, in the Mediterranean, to have influence inside Libya, for example, the relationships across that country they want to have, across the continent, they want to have influence on the continent. I would just point to the Central African Republic right now, where the Wagner Group has about 175 trainers, where some of the individuals are in actually the president's cabinet, and they're influencing the training as well as at the same time having access to minerals in that part of the country. So we're concerned that that model might be looked at or viewed positively by other countries in terms of their ability to train and their ability to influence the government at the presidential level, as well as then getting involved in extraction of minerals.
U.S. Africa Command is responsible for U.S. military operations, including fighting regional conflicts and maintaining military relations with 53 African nations. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Still ahead on Africa 54, Black Panther returns to the theaters with a surprise for fans. But first, a look at Friday's headlines.
Some key U.S. observers say Sudan's crackdown on anti-government protesters could jeopardize efforts to normalize relations with the United States as protests continue. Sierra Leonean president has declared a national emergency over the level of rape and sexual violence in the nation, saying anyone convicted of such offenses against minors would face a life sentence in prison. In South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced May 8th as the date for national elections as he delivered his second State of the Nation address. Former Senegalese President Abdoulaye Wade returns to his home country, reiterating his call for a boycott of the February 24th election he alleges is rigged.
U.S. President Donald Trump is pledging his administration's commitment to religious liberties and to protect the sanctity of life. President Trump made the pledge to religious leaders gathered in the U.S. Capitol. Here's VOA's Jeff Custer.
Trump spoke at the annual National Prayer Breakfast featuring faith leaders, members of Congress, and the president's cabinet. The event is especially popular with conservative evangelicals, a key component of Trump's support base. In his remarks, the president assured the audience he will always support people of faith.
As president, I will always cherish, honor, and protect the believers who uplift our communities and sustain our nation, to ensure that people of faith can always contribute to our society. My administration has taken historic action to protect religious liberty.
2 days after calling in his State of the Union address for legislation to end late-term abortions, Trump received extended applause from the audience Thursday when he mentioned his commitment to the sanctity of human life.
As part of our commitment to building a just and loving society, we must build a culture that cherishes the dignity and sanctity of innocent human life. All children, born and unborn, are made in the holy image of God. Every life is sacred, and every soul is a precious gift from heaven.
While the gathering is dominated by religious conservatives, the National Prayer Breakfast is considered a bipartisan event. Every president since Dwight D. Eisenhower has attended the breakfast. Jeff Custer, VOA News, Washington.
Superhero smash hit Black Panther is back in theaters following its win at the Screen Actors Guild Awards and its Oscar nomination for Best Picture. And the best part about its return to the big screen? The tickets are free. VOA's Myra De La Salette has more.
The AMC movie chain is showing Black Panther for free this week in more than 200 theaters in honor of the Black History Month in the U.S. We visited one of those theaters right here in Washington, D.C.
A movie like this, the main positive impact is that younger people get to see a superhero that looks like them. If you grew up in a time of Superman and Batman and all these Caucasian superheroes, well, it's pretty nice to have an African hero or hero of color that you can aspire to. It's always a good time to see this movie. It doesn't just have to be Black History Month.
Black Panther was the biggest box office hit of 2018 with more than $1 billion in ticket sales worldwide. And it's the first ever superhero movie with a predominantly black cast.
It's a great movie. I mean, beyond the historical and political stuff that comes along with it, it's just a great movie that I love watching. And it's a Marvel movie, so I see them as often as I can. The Oscars is coming up, so it's about to be, and it's nominated for Best Picture Oscar. It's Black History Month. I mean, it makes sense for it to be back in theaters.
How many times have you seen Black Panther?
How many times? Rough estimate, 20.
Huh?
Not in the theater, maybe like 5 in the theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a free movie, especially one that generates such pride in the African American community, even here at Howard University in Washington.
The star of the movie, Mr. Boseman, was a student at Howard University. And for many years, I was an administrator, vice president of Howard University. And I felt a special kinship. I wanted to see one of our products in action. The reaction to the movie on the part of the Howard University community was tremendous. Mr. Boseman was honored at the university at the last commencement with the presentation of an honorary doctorate degree for his contribution to the world of theater arts. So we're in there all the way.
Not only were staff members from Howard University's faculty inspired to check out the film due to its educational and cultural impact, but also teachers elsewhere.
I'm a teacher, and so my students last year were raving about it. They were really excited to see superheroes that they felt like were more like them.
The next chapter of Black Panther will be at the Academy Awards on February 24th. As part of this promotion, Disney is also donating $1.5 million to the United Negro College Fund. Myra De La Salette, VOA News, Washington, D.C.
Welcome back. Here's what's trending. If you're planning to visit the Cradle of Humankind just outside of Johannesburg, there's a new experience you may want to try, a virtual reality tour of the exclusive Dinaledi Chamber. The World Heritage Site has yielded numerous fossils over the years, but the excavation site is tricky to access, so the virtual reality journey is an exciting alternative. You can also get it as an app for your phone. It can be downloaded by anyone around the world and comes with narrations in 6 languages. The Dinaledi app gives users a 360-degree experience of the chamber. Next up, amid the hustle and bustle of the roads in Pakistani's port city of Karachi, trucks decorated with brightly colored murals tower over the traffic. The country's truck art, as it's known, has become a global phenomenon, inspiring gallery exhibitions abroad. Truck art has become one of Pakistani's best-known cultural exports. Ali himself has had his work exhibited overseas in the U.S., Europe, Canada, and other parts of Asia. Truckers say having a decorated truck can revive an old vehicle and even attract more businesses, making it an increasingly competitive trend. And finally, for years, Park Yi-sul pursued her dream of becoming a fashion model. In order to conform to the South Korean ideal of beauty, she veered between extreme dieting and overeating. Now she calls herself a natural size model, which she defines as someone with the same kind of body you can see in daily life. In South Korea, a woman weighing over 50 kilograms is considered by many to be chubby, regardless of how tall she is. Now, hundreds of young women are taking to social media with the hashtag, which means take off the corset. Others are posting online photos and videos of themselves cutting their hair short, destroying their beauty products, and going out without makeup. And that's what's trending today. And it's Music Makers Friday, and joining me here in the studio is VOA's David Bundy, the popular host of the African Beat Radio program. David, welcome back to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me. It's been a while.
Now, you know, I want to talk about some young guy here from Ghana. His name is Samini. And you interviewed Samini, and he's a reggae. His kind of music is reggae, but I also, you know, looked a little bit, and I see his kind of genre is a mixture of kind of goodies here. Melodious mixture of high life, dance, hip-hop. I mean, I just don't know where to classify him, but you've talked to him. How do you classify Samini?
I talked to him. In fact, he classed his own kind of music as African dancehall, because he used to do hip life, you know, hip hop, reggae. But he said, you know what, I think I have to create my own. So he called his own African dancehall. You know, this young man, what attracted me to him is his journey. You know, he started as a young man who used to walk the streets of Ghana, and he would hear live music playing in the church, and that live music will drag him there. So he became part of the choir, singing background. Before he was 15, 16, he was singing backup for most of the major stars in Ghana. And all of a sudden he said, you know what, I think I have to do my own thing. People have been seeing me. But I said, why did you decide to be a backup singer? I said, well, when you're a backup singer, people notice you because sometimes they hear your voice and they will start, who is that kid singing there? Who is that? You know, and so he became, today he's one of Ghana's biggest.
He's made it big.
And I tell you, Esther, one other thing that he said to me that actually caught my attention is that being an artist, the people love me. I said, so I decided to do agriculture. And if they love me because I can sing, they will also love me because I till the soil. So if they are happy here with my song, they should be happy with my products.
How much of that is he doing? Which one is bringing money or food on the table? Because, you know, most artists, they just want to sing, make the money.
Yeah.
Who has time to till the land? This is very interesting. What is he doing with the farm?
Well, he said he's growing all kind of products because he wants to, in his own community, he wants to be taking care of his people. He wants to feed his people. You know, most times these days in Africa, we import everything. And so he said, if I can do this, if they love me because of the music, let me also give them something to eat. You know, and so that would be an example for young guys who are also coming up that can also look at farming and say, you know what, I think we have to go into this also because there's money in it.
You know, David, before we go further, let's take a listen to Samini's popular song here called My Own. And what's My Own? David, what do you know about this song? What is My Own? What's he singing about?
Well, when I asked him about this song, he said when he decided to put this reggae album together, this was the first song. In fact, this song was done like 2 years ago. So this was his first song, and this song became an instant hit in Ghana, won a lot of awards, and so that is why he has decided to include it in this album. And so, talking about My Own, I said, who is my own? Well, he just simply said, my own is my own.
It's himself, right? It's him. It's what he has cut out for himself.
What he has cut out for himself. So everything is his own.
The farming, the what. But how is he doing compared to other, you know, more known artists in Ghana, for example?
Yes. Well, as far as he is concerned, he is doing great because he has created his own genre of African dancehall. And he's playing with big names, not just in Ghana, even out of Ghana. In fact, he played with most of the big reggae artists from Jamaica. Some of his songs, some of the beats were done in Jamaica, you know. And what he also created a foundation, a foundation for young girls, you know, that are having problems, and also have this agriculture foundation. So it's like he's doing a lot of stuff put together.
Let's see a little bit more.
All right.
Yep.